Hello and welcome to India Business Hour. I'm Ashmit Kumar and here are the headlines that we're tracking this evening. RBI Governor defends the crackdown on Paytm, says sufficient time was given to the company and supervision action was taken due to lack of corrective measures. Governor says the restrictions imposed are proportionate to the gravity of the situation and KYC was just one of the several issues at Paytm. Monetary Policy Committee leaves key rates and stance unchanged. Governor says interest rate transmission is not yet complete. Asserts that inflation needs to temper substantially below the 4% target. Expects a GDP growth rate of 7% in FY25. Bank stocks slide after RBI's status quo policy. Sensex and Nifty decline over 1%, even as mid-caps outperform to end marginally in the red. Congress and BJP spar over their economic performance. Union government releases a white paper on what it calls economic mismanagement under the UPA. Congress releases a black paper calling it a charge sheet of the BJP's injustice during its decade-long tenure. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu rejects a ceasefire proposal from Hamas, calling the terms delusional. Netanyahu orders troops to enter the overcrowded city of Rafah. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken believes a ceasefire deal is still possible. SBI chairman says reports about selling stake in Yes Bank are baseless. Another investor, Advent, also expresses faith in Yes Bank's recovery. Advent management says investment in Yes Bank is irrespective of the SBI shareholding. LIC reports a strong third quarter. Premiums rise 7%. Value of new businesses increase 46%. And margins zoom over 500 basis points. Also declares interim dividend of 4 rupees per share. Zomato beats estimates in Q3, reports consolidated net profit of 138 crore rupees as against losses of 340 crore rupees in the same period last year. Revenue rises 79%. After posting losses for the 4 straight quarters, SoftBank is back in black. A rally in tech stocks helps the Vision Fund gain $4 billion, its biggest in nearly 3 years. Mobile phone and internet services suspended across Pakistan as the country votes a day after 30 people were killed in bomb blasts. More incidents of violence reported from parts of the country. With Imran Khan disqualified, Nawaz Sharif's party could emerge as the single largest party. Parliament bids farewell to former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh as he retires from Rajya Sabha. Prime Minister Modi lauds Manmohan Singh's contributions to India's politics and economy. Well, here's the top story this evening. No surprises from the Monetary Policy Committee. Key rates were left unchanged. The RBI also maintained its stance at withdrawal of accommodation, with the Governor, Shaktikanta Das, saying that interest rate transmission is not yet complete. Governor also asserted that inflation needs to temper substantially below the target of 4%. Now, for the upcoming financial year, RBI expects inflation to decline gradually to 4.5%. Inflation forecast for the current quarter has been scaled down to 5%. The RBI, meanwhile, remains upbeat on growth and has estimated at 7% growth rate for FY25. It has upgraded its forecast for the first 3 quarters of the upcoming financial year. The governor's press conference after the policy was largely dominated by questions about the crackdown on Paytm Payments Bank. The governor defended the restrictions imposed, calling them proportionate to the gravity of the situation. The governor said that company was given ample time for corrective action and also added that KYC was just one of the several issues at Paytm. Take a look.
There is no worry about the system at the moment. Here we are talking about a specific institution, a specific payment bank. Our emphasis is always on bilateral engagement with the regulated entities, with focus on nudging them for corrective action. And sufficient time is given for undertaking such corrective action. Such restrictions which we impose are always proportionate to the gravity of the situation. It is not a case where there was a regulatory deficiency or there was a regulatory correction required. It's an issue of compliance. compliance with various parameters. You mentioned about KYC, but compliance with so many aspects. Again, let me not specify the details. So regulations are there, regulations are robust, and it's a situation where we are focused on the compliance not being there with the regulatory requirements.
Well, Paytm there dominating the press conference with the governor. Ritu Singh, in fact, joining us now with more details on the comments on Paytm. Ritu, a strong defense being put up there by the governor.
Well, importantly, this is the very first time you have the Reserve Bank of India publicly addressing the issue around Paytm payment bank since that small notification on the 31st of January, now making it clear that the action was taken only after repeated warnings, which Paytm Bank failed to address. Now, as a caveat, the governor did say that RBI does not comment on specific entities and was only making general observations about all regulated entities, which includes Paytm Bank, to give an insight into what led to this crackdown. Now, the governor read that 7-point statement in this matter, and to start with, he said RBI had significantly deepened its supervisory system, its approach and methods over the last few years, and that the emphasis has always been on a two-way bilateral engagement with financial entities with a focus on nudging them to take the corrective action, and it is only after giving them sufficient time when these entities still fail to take effective remedies, only then does RBI impose supervisory or business restrictions. And importantly, to all of those who've been questioning what could have caused such a severe reaction from RBI, the governor making it clear that restrictions imposed by the regulator are always proportionate to the gravity of the situation. Now, during the course of the press conference, you also had RBI allude to the fact that there were grave issues of compliance, not just deficiency, and not just on KYC, but several other fronts as well. Governor Das making it very clear that such actions are not taken lightly by the regulator and they are responsible, and ultimately all of these actions are driven keeping in mind the depositor's interest and to maintain financial stability. For the common man who may have queries about what happens next now, can they use their Paytm wallet, can they use the app to make UPI transactions, all of these questions are going to be addressed by the RBI in an FAQ that is going to be released soon. And lastly, in no uncertain terms, because of criticism from certain quarters, RBI also wanted to send out the message that such instances should not raise any doubt about its commitment of promoting fintechs and technological innovation in the financial sector.
Right, Ritu, thanks a lot for that. And with that, let's bring the focus back to the monetary policy. Lata Venkatesh joining us now to help us understand the key takeaways. Lata.
The important takeaway is the market went into the policy expecting some softness, which it did not find in the Reserve Bank stock. It was not as if the Reserve Bank was hawkish, but the point is it was not dovish. To be fair, they have cut inflation forecast. For the current quarter, Jan, Feb, March, the original forecast was 5.2, they've brought it down to 5. April, May, June, original forecast was 5.2, they've brought it down to 5. But unlike what market expected, they did not hint that they are going to bring down change the stance of withdrawal of liquidity. There was no withdrawal of accommodation. There was no mention of it. On the contrary, they added a new condition that we are going to retain the stance until all the rate hikes that we gave is passed on by the banks. Until now, they gave only one condition, that inflation is brought down to aligns with the 4% target. Now, inflation has to align, plus all the rate hikes have not been passed on. This gave a bit of a jitter to the stock markets because it looked like they are expecting more rate hikes from the banks, if not from RBI. And that's why one saw a lot of sell-off of NBFC stocks and even consumer stocks, as well some of the private sector banks, which was perhaps more related to the rush for deposits. That also is not seen ending anytime soon. However, for the bond market, there was a positive. The positive was that they said they will use liquidity instruments very actively. Now, what it translates for a bond dealer is that the call rate, the rate at which banks borrow from one another for one day, was as high as 6.75 until recently. But when the RBI started giving money in end Jan, that rate came down to 6.5, which is the repo rate. The language of the RBI suggests that they will continue to give liquidity, and therefore the call rate will be at 6.5 and not at 6.75. This may have a marginal impact on deposit raising also, because if the call rate goes down to 6.5, banks don't have to, pay too much for deposits. But nevertheless, no one is expecting deposit rates to come down anytime soon. That's the key takeaway for the stock market. So a little bit of positive for bond markets, but really for the stock markets, nothing much by way of any easier rates anytime soon.
Right, Lata, thanks a lot for that breakdown for us. With that, shifting focus to the market action now, Sensex and Nifty ended the day with cuts after the Reserve Bank's status quo policy failed to boost the market sentiments. Bank stocks fell 2%, mid-cap index closed lower, but relatively outperformed compared to the other indices. Well, speaking of the markets, equity mutual fund inflows are sharply higher for January at 21,700 crore rupees, with over 6,000 crores mobilized via NFOs. Inflows into small caps continue to rise, with large caps also seeing sizable interest after several months. The SIP contributions for the month hit record highs of over 18,000 crore rupees. Well, in key earnings now, LIC posted a strong set in the third quarter, becoming the first insurer to see margin expansion. Yash Jain joining us now with more details. Yash, take us through the numbers.
Well, Ashmit, when the whole life insurance sector is struggling, to expand its premium, to sort of expand its margins, LIC has come out with very, very strong numbers. And these are not just strong numbers on a year-on-year basis, but against what Street was estimating as well. The total annualized premium equivalent has grown by about 7% on a year-on-year basis. The Street was estimating this number at about 13,056 crore rupees. It's come in at about 13,163 crore rupees. Value of new business has grown by 46% in the third quarter. That number has come in at about 2634 crore rupees. The Street was estimating about 1800 crore rupees. Finally, the margins seeing a very, very strong expansion. The margins are up about 541 basis points, coming in at about 20.01%. Against 14.6%, the Street was estimating just about 15.7%. So, of course, good numbers on a year-on-year basis, but much ahead of what the Street was also estimating out of LIC.
Right, Yash, thanks a lot for that. But staying with the earnings fever, food delivery platform Zomato posted a consolidated net profit of 138 crore rupees in the third quarter versus loss of over 340 crores in the same period last year. Consolidated revenue jumped nearly 80% and margin grew at 1.5%. Quick commerce revenue more than doubled to over 660 crore rupees. Meanwhile, FMCG giants ITC's largest shareholder, BAT, also known as British American Tobacco, has said that it is working towards selling some of its stake in the company. Currently, BAT holds 29% stake in ITC worth 1.5 lakh crore rupees. In an earnings release, the company said that its significant shareholding in ITC offers an opportunity to release and reallocate some capital. In other news, SBI Chairman Dinesh Khara has denied reports of any stake sale in Yes Bank. SBI picked up stake in Yes Bank as a part of a rescue mission led by the government. Dinesh Khara termed reports of any potential stake sale as baseless. Another investor in Yes Bank is private equity major Advent. Speaking to CNBC-TV18, Advent management also expressed faith in Yes Bank's recovery and said that its investment is not contingent on the SBI shareholding.
As of now, the news item which is featuring in the media is all baseless. It could be more of a conjecture. That's how I will respond it.
We didn't invest behind Yes Bank because of a particular shareholder or another shareholder. Our thesis on Yes Bank was the balance sheet is fully cleaned up. It's a book that we know what is being stated is what the real book is. Growth in the emerging leading corporates and their small and medium enterprise segment, the retail growth, improvement in cost to income ratio, and the whole digital back end of the bank, right? Which was, I would say, one of the youngest banks in the country. So obviously relatively a lot more new age than many of our older banks, right? And those elements of the thesis are playing out. We continue to remain excited. So I think it's irrespective of shareholding of the bank and how that changes.
Well, speaking of Advent, the US private equity firm is looking to pump in up to $10 billion in the Indian market over the next 5 years. The company believes that India is one of the world's most attractive investment hubs and sees growth opportunity in the country.
We said last time we met that we'd have a target. We actually exceeded that target very significantly. We said, I think, about 1.7 billion, and we did about 4.4 in the end. For the next 5 years, we would like to commit something like $5 to $10 billion here in India. So a very significant growth, but that reflects, the prospects that we see in this market.
In global earnings now, Japan's SoftBank returned to profit after 4 quarters, boosted by a rise in the value of its tech investments. Quarterly profits stood at $6 billion compared to a loss of nearly the same amount in the corresponding period last year. The profit was driven by gains in the company's Vision Fund segment. And while staying with global earnings, Japanese automaker Honda posted a strong performance in the quarter ending in December. Net profit rose 3.5% year-on-year, while quarterly sales jumped 21%. This is on the back of strong demand from the United States and Europe. A favorable exchange rate also helped amplify Honda's overseas profits in yen terms. This is expected to continue through the rest of this fiscal year. And well, back home, it's the day of IT off paper wars in politics. The BJP government has released a white paper accusing the Manmohan Singh government of leaving the economy in a bad shape after the decade of UPA rule. Meanwhile, earlier in the day, the Congress released a black paper claiming it is a charge sheet on the BJP's injustices in its decade-long rule. The Finance Ministry, in its white paper, claimed that the BJP government put the country on a resolute path of sustained high growth. Congress, in its paper, criticized the government on jobs front. It also alleged that laws implemented by the BJP government have caused further distress to farmers. And while the parliament bid farewell to former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh as he retires from the Rajya Sabha, Prime Minister Modi lauds Manmohan Singh's contribution to India's politics and economy. He called him a guiding light for budding politicians.
माननीय डॉक्टर मनमोहन सिंह जी का स्मरण करना चाहूंगा। 6 बार इस सदन में वो अपने मूल्यवान विचारों से और नेता के रूप में भी और प्रतिपक्ष में भी नेता के रूप में उनका बहुत बड़ा योगदान रहा है।
2004 और 14 का जो कार्यकाल था मनमोहन सिंह जी का, वो बहुत ही अच्छा था। उन्होंने अच्छी काम की। इसकी जो सालाना या उसकी जो तारीफ की, उसी लिए मैं आपको धन्यवाद देता हूं। ऐसी ही चलती रहे। जो अच्छे काम होते उसकी तारीफ करो, जो कमियां होती हैं वो गिनते जाओ।
Well, coming up on India Business Hour, activists oppose Mumbai civic body's plans to revamp the iconic Mahalakshmi Racecourse, allege that government will end up destroying one of the last remaining open spaces in the city. Opposition leader Aditya Thackeray against the plan as well. And you can also catch all CNBC TV18's news and updates on Facebook, X, Threads, Instagram and JioCinema. In some international news now, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has rejected a ceasefire proposal from Hamas, calling the terms delusional. Netanyahu ordered troops to enter the overcrowded city of Rafah. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken in Israel, and he believes a ceasefire deal is still possible. Meanwhile, a U.S. drone strike in Iraq killed a senior commander leader of Iran-backed militia. According to a U.S. statement, the attack killed the commander responsible for planning and executing drone attack in Jordan that killed 3 American troops last month. The White House has also claimed that there was no collateral damage or civilian casualties involved in this attack. This comes just days after U.S. launched around 85 strikes near the Iraq-Syria border in retaliation to attacks on U.S. troops in January. And Pakistan is voting for a new parliament amidst incidents of violence across the country. A connectivity blackout and widespread crackdown on Imran Khan's party, PTI, 3-time Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif's party, is expected to emerge as the single largest party. Bilawal Bhutto, who heads Pakistan People's Party, is another top contender. Both the PPP and PML Nawaz, despite being traditional rivals, had formed a coalition government after Imran Khan's ouster. Former Prime Minister Imran Khan has been banned from contesting elections because of multiple convictions. The Election Commission had earlier locked his party symbol on grounds that they did not conduct intra-party elections. His party candidates are contesting independently. Well, back home, Kerala and Tamil Nadu leaders have joined forces with neighbouring states of Karnataka protesting against the central government's alleged discrimination over allocation of funds to South Indian states. While addressing a gathering, Kerala Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan said that India's democracy is slowly and steadily crippled. Meanwhile, Tamil Nadu leaders held demonstrations wearing black shirts near the Gandhi statue in Parliament complex. The leaders raised slogans denouncing the union government, citing that the state was completely ignored during the interim budget. Well, in other news, Aam Aadmi Party has said that it will take legal action against the Enforcement Directorate for defaming the party. In a statement, the party called the ED a mouthpiece of the central government and said that the allegations against the Delhi Chief Minister were blatantly false. This move comes after Delhi court issued summons to Chief Minister Kejriwal in a money laundering case related to an alleged excise policy scam. To Mumbai now. Mumbai's biggest open space, spread across 211 acres, is all set to undergo a massive revamp. The Maharashtra government and the Brihan Mumbai Municipal Corporation, or the BMC, is taking over a large portion of this iconic Mahalakshmi Racecourse and says it will be built into a public park on it. CNBC-TV18 Santya Gora reports that activists and opposition parties are not sold on this idea and allege that the government will end up destroying one of the last remaining open spaces in the city. Take a look.
Derby races at the Mahalakshmi Racecourse. It's a staple of any movie set in old Mumbai, or Bombay as it was called then. Iconic establishment shots set right alongside the Marine Drive Promenade, the local trains and the Gateway of India. Important movie plots have unfolded with these horse races being run in the background. But this race could be one of the last races being run in the racecourse's old setup. While the races will continue, they'll be a part of a new racecourse, one which is at the same place but not as imposing and sprawling as this one is.
The plan is to split the 211-acre land parcel into two. 91 acres will remain with the racecourse for racing and equestrian-related operations. The balance 120 acres will be converted into a park for citizens to use.
Let me clear on record that this public park will be public park only. There will be no construction there, and it will be open to all citizens of Mumbai free of cost, and BMC shall maintain it by pumping it crores of rupees and make it a five-star facility.
But opposition parties are not buying this plan. They claim the government is secretly talking to builders and real estate developers and will parcel out the land for real estate projects. Environmentalists and frequent visitors, meanwhile, argue that there is no need for a special park because a significant chunk of the racecourse is already open to the public. This suggests that instead of taking it over and spending time and money revamping it, the government simply open up a bigger portion of the racecourse land to the public.
And one thing is that you can't trust them also as to what they're going to do over there, because they are one, you know about the BMC, the government. Do they ever keep their word? So you just can't trust them.
Bettering the AQI in our beautiful city of Mumbai is top priority. You know, all of us staying healthy forever, touch wood, is huge priority. So I think, you know, in the quest to say, let's make this green, it's already green, and if anything, it should only be beautified but remain exactly as it is, because the fear is that in this process of concretization to build and to create, whether it's underground or whatever, that itself is years of pollution.
Our Prime Minister is stressing that we should produce more and more people who can win gold for us. They're creating facilities in Ahmedabad by spending crores and crores of rupees, and here we have an existing facility. Don't you think it is wise to maintain it?
We have not been educated about the plans. I would wish that the BMC or the state are more transparent and are prone to the public's demand and serve the people rather than claim ownership and and act dictatorially.
Activists say they will approach the court once more details of the BMC's plan is made public because the court felt their earlier petition, filed when no BMC plan was available, was premature. They also point out that the 99-year lease to Royal Western India Turf Club expired in 2013 and has not been renewed by the government and BMC for over a decade, and that the BMC should disclose what penalty and compensation it is trying to realize from the Turf Club, whose members are among the richest in the country. In Mumbai, with Rachna Dhanranjani, Santiagora.
Well, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of India Business Up. But before we go, we would like to thank all of our viewers for your continued support and trust. CNBC-TV18 was the most watched business news channel on the day of the interim budget, with an all-India viewership of over 81%. When the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman delivered her budget speech, CNBC-TV18 had a viewership of nearly 78%. Once again, we would like to thank all of our viewers for your trust and continued support. Thanks so much for watching. The news and updates will continue right here.